So in the grand tradition of screwing things up and doing HackerCon stuff, we're going to run with half slides, because hopefully it's all recorded and in living color and video. That's exactly what we meant to do, right? We'll go with that.
Just to make sure you're all paying attention.
Yes. All right, so we'll kick this off. I'm Beau Woods. This is Space Rogue. We're going to be talking about Am The Cavalry and the last year. So just by show of hands, although I can't see it because there's a bright light in my eyes, who was here last year for DerbyCon Congress? See a few hands out there. Very good. Very good. So this is going to be new for everybody, I think. The folks who were here last year, you get to see, you know, the historical perspective as well as where we've come since then, and things have changed a lot. So we're going to go over what is Am The Cavalry. I'm sure everybody's probably heard about it. If not, you will today. And then go through what we went through in the last year. Just briefly review it, see what lessons we learned, what we found out not to do. And some of the surprises, and then talk about what we're going to do in the coming year. Then we're going to highlight the 5-star auto cyber safety framework and some of the outcomes that have come from that. So, Am The Cavalry. The problem statement is that we're adopting connected technology faster than we're able to secure it. So when you look at things like automobiles, like medical devices, like public infrastructure, Internet of Things, these are all devices that have the potential to impact human life and public safety. As these traditionally non-computerized, non-connected devices are having computers and connectivity put into them, we want to make sure that we're not transplanting the same security problems into those devices, because where bits meet bone, as we kind of say, that's where you have real safety issues. The mission statement is to ensure connected technologies with the potential to impact public safety and human life are worthy of our trust. And we really feel like the trustworthiness aspect is a good one. There's a balancing act between making people aware of the issues and not destroying the trust in the people who are already going to buy those and adopt them.
So we didn't come up with this mission statement out of thin air. A lot of this was sort of distilled from the Congress last year that we had here at Derby. We also had refined it at Blue Hat and at Shmoo and at B-Side San Francisco, and we gathered input from a large number of people. I think we had 100 people in our room here at DerbyCon last year, or all day, for the entire day. We had a large number of people at Blue Hat, a large number of people at B-Side San Francisco, and all those people had input into what this mission statement should be, and this is what we boiled it down into, to try to get the pure essence of what the Cavalry should be focusing on.
Yeah, exactly. And just to let you know, when giving this mission statement outside of the security community, this is a version that really resonates with people who, you know, don't even understand technology necessarily. But they hear what we have to say and they're like, oh, that makes sense. I've seen Internet of Things, or I've got a computer in my car now. So they really, it helps them get why we're doing what we're doing. And as I mentioned, we broke this out into 4 quadrants. Last year at the Congress, we really focused in on these 4. So we had the idea that maybe these 4 areas should be kind of verticals or pillars of what we were talking about. And at the Congress, that really solidified with us. The reason we broke it up into these 4 is because there are similar chains of influence within each of these verticals. Meaning, in medical devices, you have kind of a unique set of just an ecosystem with physicians, with patients, with hospital buyers, with regulatory agencies. The same thing is true with automotive. Each one of these is unique, but they have similarities amongst the different groups within that pillar.
If you go back to the mission statement, public safety and human life, right? All 4 of these verticals that we're focusing on impact public safety and or human life, or both. And that's why we've broken these out into these 4 groups for us to focus on.
Yeah, and that's really critical for us. One of the things that came out of DerbyCon Congress last year too is the idea that safety, oh no, Dave's going to do something bad.
All you.
All right. Have you got an opener? Oh, no opener. Can't.
Sorry. Is it a twist?
So it almost died. That's right, safety. So we originally started out, and we'll go into this a little bit later, with 3 separate pillars. But what we realized is that as we were talking, we got the most resonance out of public safety and human life issues. There are other people doing some of the things that we initially started out talking about, and we found that there wasn't nearly the amount of traction in this area. There weren't nearly the number of groups and the number of action that was going on, and we felt that doing a public safety initiative was really going to buy our community the right to then inject ourselves into some of the other discussions that we were having.
When you say people are going to die, it really helps you to get outside the echo chamber,
Yeah.
and people start listening to you.
Yeah, and it's highly related to what most people do, right? I mean, we've all got cars just about. A lot of people have family members or friends with medical devices or who have been saved by certain medical devices. Everybody has heard of the Internet of Things. Everybody knows that all of these things exist. So it's more tangible, more visceral for people, and they can really get behind it better.
I think part of the issue is that we've all been talking about this for years and years and years, right, amongst ourselves. We all know what the problems are. We've been in the industry for, well, some of us have been, anyway. We all know what the problems are, and we all talk about this amongst ourselves, but the people who are developing the products, who are building the products, who are using the products, they may not be aware of these issues. And that's why we need to talk beyond ourselves and get outside of ourselves, outside of our echo chamber, and talk to other industries and other people so that we can bring awareness of those things to them.
Right. And something else that came out of the DerbyCon Congress we did last year, as well as it was reinforced later in some of the conversations we had, is we really need to focus on talking outside of the echo chamber, like Space said, right? We all know the issues, and it's great to sit here and admire the problem. You have to do a certain amount of figuring out what the problem really is to be able to solve it. But once you've got it really kind of figured out, and once you know some of the solutions, then you have to go out and change the world, right? You have to put those into practice. And we can't do that just amongst ourselves. If we could have, these things would have been solved already, right? We wouldn't have another heartbleed. We wouldn't have these things like shell shock that came out. So doing education, outreach, actually getting outside of the security community, outside of the con talks, and going to talk to regular people, and then promoting research. Essentially taking the work that's already being done by really smart people in the community and broadcasting it better, being able to interject that into media stories, being able to highlight that in public policy discussions, and bringing that out. So this is a grassroots organization. Essentially, it's just a bunch of passionate volunteers who decided to come together and do something. We saw the problem, and we wanted to fix the problem.
I think you kicked on a key point, and we'll probably talk about it again more. Group of talented, passionate volunteers. We all have day jobs. Some of us, our day jobs are more taxing than others, and we are all volunteers. Nobody's getting paid for any of this right now. And I want you to keep that in mind as we go through this talk and talk about some of the stuff we've done over the last year. I think it's, considering we're all volunteers and part-time, even less than part-time really, it's quite impressive what we have accomplished so far.
Yep. And we've got really a long-term vision. So some of the folks that we've talked to, they haven't really gotten why we're doing what we're doing until we start saying, okay, well, we're looking at 5 years down the road, 10, 20, 30, 40, right? We all know that there are vulnerabilities, that there are issues in products that are out there today. And those are really hard to fix, right? I mean, how do you talk to a medical device company and say, hey, why don't you just spend $10 or $20 million to go out and fix this product line that you've got? And oh yeah, you've got 30 other product lines that are also vulnerable. That
are all discontinued, that you're not making any money on anymore, and nobody's buying.
Right.
But we want you to fix them because they're out there in the field now.
Right. You know, that's the kind of traditional security mentality is let's fix the things that are there now, right? It's a very prioritized approach in that way. And we took that and we kind of flipped it on its head. We said, right, if we can't get traction here, let's not give up. Let's keep going. Let's get traction somewhere else. So maybe products that are in the design phase, you just go and influence a couple of decisions so that the decision makers, the people who are building the things now, they make a little bit smarter choices. That they realize, okay, well, if I don't have to have Bluetooth connectivity to change the treatment on somebody's implantable cardiac device, that maybe I don't have Bluetooth, or maybe I don't hook that implantable device up to Wi-Fi. Maybe instead I use near-field communications, which has a much, much smaller area of effect. And then
maybe I add encryption.
Yeah, add encryption, add authentication.
Just a thought.
Add these simple things that we all know are really, really basic, but that people who aren't used to building software, they might not know that you need to do those things, right? They don't think about those adversarial scenarios or the accidental impacts from things. And then even beyond the things that are in design and being built right now, how do you fix an entire industry? How do you fix an organization, a car maker, and get them to adopt a secure development lifecycle, right? That's not something that's going to change products in the field. But as we're deploying more and more devices that are computerized and connected, that becomes a big thing. If you think about in certain industries, you have a 40-year, 80-year replacement cycle, right? Nuclear facilities, you don't want to replace things very often, right? It makes sense for them to have that long of a replacement cycle, an upgrade cycle. But the decisions we're making today, the things we're putting in the field today, are going to be with us for a long time. So if we can fix something that's going to be sold 5 years from now so that it doesn't have long-term security impacts, that's a win. And one of the things that we found, one of the hows, is we're going around collecting existing research and researchers, talking to people, building up a library, building up a Rolodex of people that we can go to when there's certain subject matter expertise needed. We are connecting those people to industry, to public policymakers, to media, to whoever they need to be able to talk with to influence.
I think one thing that surprised me throughout the last year as we started doing this, started talking to different people, is there are a lot of people who are doing small parts of this. And they're out there on their own, and they're working on their one part, and they're trying to get their information out on their one product or their one vertical, and they're out there. And so we collect them and we gather them together so that we now know who these people are, so that when we reach out to other people and say, hey, you know, we can point them to John who's working on that topic.
Right. And we want to collaborate, bring people together and sit them down in a room. You know, we ran an event in Black Hat, around Black Hat area and time frame, that was an invite-only event for Internet of Things people. So we had medical device makers, we had automakers, we had Internet of Things makers, we had public infrastructure makers. We got them with some really smart security researchers to meet each other. Turns out the people in industry that we thought were maybe clueless and they didn't know a thing, they actually know a lot. They know a lot more about what they're doing than we do, right? They live it every day. A lot of these people have been trying for months and years to get more security into the products, into the devices. They need a little bit of help, and that's what we want to do, to catalyze this positive action before it might have happened otherwise in isolation and acting alone. And finally, the name. So the original concept for I Am the Cavalry, because a lot of people ask, is we looked around for who is making sure that somebody's thinking about these things, that the decision makers are informed about risks of putting connectivity and computerization into Internet of Things. We found that there really wasn't anybody, right? The idea is the cavalry is not coming to save us. It falls to us. We must be the cavalry. And I Am the Cavalry is a personal call to action for each and every one of us to do something that's in the right direction.
So the name I Am the Cavalry isn't, you know, a group of people saying, I am the cavalry. It's supposed to be everybody. Everybody individually saying, I am the cavalry. And that's what the difference is. Yeah.
And that's probably one of the biggest criticisms that we've gotten, or questions that we've gotten from people who haven't gone through this talk before and listened to it, is they just don't understand it. And it is kind of confusing. It's something that we didn't mean for it to become a name and stick around with us for a year, but it has.
It's supposed to be temporary.
It was supposed to be temporary.
It was just for the initial talk, and then here we are a year later, and we haven't changed it.
Yeah. But, you know, the good thing is for some people...
And we're probably not going to at this point.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that.
Talk about that.
Some people actually really like it, and it's been beneficial, so we like that part of it. So the Cavalry all started, we've alluded to this a little bit, last year at B-Sides Las Vegas. Josh Corman and Nick Percoco stood up and gave the first talk on this, and at DEF CON then, DEF CON 21, and just introduced the idea, the concept. If you hadn't seen that talk, it's a pretty good talk. It was given several other times, but that was the initiation point. And there were three main planks to the platform, three things that we wanted to accomplish, right? The body, which is human life, public safety. Mind, which is right to research, right? Criminalization of research, bad laws like CFAA and Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which criminalize computer research because they're really old, right? When they were written, the world was a different place. And then soul, civil liberties issues.
CFAA was 1986, is that right?
80, yeah, something like that.
Dial-ups?
Yeah.
Modems.
So what does unauthorized access mean
so,
in an internet world?
And those laws have changed almost none since then, but anyway, I'm rambling, sorry.
Yes, that's fine. So again, one thing is clear, the Cavalry isn't coming, it falls to you, it falls to all of us. Introduce the Cavalry. And we started out and we said, look, these are the goals we want to accomplish in year 0, the first year of doing this. We just want to test the waters, right? We want to see whether or not this idea is feasible. Can we actually go out and make some change?
I don't think anybody realized that sort of reaction, attention that we would get, that Nick and Josh would get. I mean, I'll admit, when I first heard of the talk, I was like, that's a stupid idea. That's not going to work. And then I actually heard his talk. Right, and Josh and Nick actually presented a very good case, and I was like, oh, that's a little different. That actually has some possibilities, and that's what brought me in and got me involved. So I think the feasibility testing was to try to see, I don't think any of us really realized how much it was going to draw in people.
Yeah, it was kind of amazing. I mean, most initiatives, they get started in their first year and nobody's heard about them. It takes 2 or 3 years before they really get ramped up. With us, we were on the main stage from the very beginning. The idea was viral. It's kind of a call to serve type of thing, and everybody in our industry, being good guys, security folks, good guys and ladies, being security folks, we really want to protect people. We want to help, right? Our idea was to try a bunch of different things, fail at a lot of them, but find ones that really succeeded and then do those more, and the ones that failed, not do them as much. And I think we did a pretty good job of that, failing anyways. We had some successes too, which we've built on a lot. And so as we talk about what we're going to do in the next year, that's mainly based off of the successes that we had and building on those. We wanted to really define the problem space. Like I said, you can't know how to solve a problem unless you've defined it well. So we've mapped out a lot of the issues. We've refined our message, gotten to more of a core sentiment that we think works well.
A lot of that problem space defining happened right here last year.
It did.
In a room downstairs for 12 hours. Cramped in 100 people in a hot, sweaty room. But it was very helpful. I think we fleshed out a lot of ideas in that room, and I think that without that input from folks here at DerbyCon and besides San Francisco and at other places, we would not be where we are.
Right. And we did gather a lot of like-minded people. There are a lot of folks that we met just going along, doing our thing, who they really believe in changing the world, and they really believe in fixing some of the problems that are out there, because more than anything, we want to leave a legacy that is good, that is a better future than we found it.
And again, surprising to me, and I mentioned this before, was just how many people were kind of sort of already working on stuff on their own by themselves, and that we weren't able to gather them together until Josh and Nick had their talk and sort of galvanized people and brought everybody together. And to me, it was surprising, like, well, I didn't know somebody was working on that. I didn't know that this guy was working on this. And now we're trying to gather all that together into one big group.
Yeah, I think about it as you've all probably seen those science videos where you have a super saturated glass of water and it's got a lot of sugar in it.
Yeah, I watch those all the time.
Oh, I'm sure you do. I do. I'm a science geek. I'm not going to apologize for that. But those glasses of water, it's got lots of sugar in it, but it's not crystallized out. And then you drop in a single grain of sugar, and it just all aggregates around that, right? It's the seed that starts the chain of events.
That's the most popular video on YouTube, isn't it?
I think it is. That
I've never seen that ever. But anyway, I'll take your word for it.
If we could get a dancing cat to like drop the sugar in, maybe that would work. We should get started on that. We wanted to... That's the most productive use of our time, yeah.
Take notes.
We also wanted to map out the chain of influence, right? What does it actually take to get something solved? How do you go in and talk to policymakers? Who does what in Congress? I didn't know. I mean, I've spent enough time in D.C. Over my life that I probably should have known it. I took high school civics and I watched Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. But like, how do all of these things really work together? That's just one small subsection.
It doesn't work like you think it does.
No, it doesn't, surprisingly. And not in a better or worse way. Just these are the realities of the world.
And it takes time to learn those realities and learn who influences who and who you need to talk to get to talk to somebody else. And that's takes time.
It does. It does. It turns out that some organizations are way more influential than you might think. There are certain standards-making organizations that in the auto industry and the medical industry, they have more power than Congress. They have more power than the board of directors of some of these companies. They essentially set the direction for some of the things that are going into cars or medical devices or home infrastructure or public infrastructure, whatever. And we wanted to form some plans. We wanted to kind of think about this, figure it out, consider it, and then move forward. We figured the worst thing we could do is just go out, do a bunch of stuff. Maybe it's all wrong and we can't take it back now and burn some of the goodwill that we got. So we wanted to really carefully approach some of the things while trying some different ones and see what worked. Oh, I lost my battery. I might have to do it manually. That would be horrible. One of the things that we did, as we mentioned, collecting. We collected a lot of people. There were a lot of really cool people working in industry. There are a lot of people who changed jobs so that they are working in industry now, and they weren't before. And they're doing that out of a sense of, hey, if I'm not going to do this, maybe nobody is, so I'm going to step in and take a career with a car maker or with a medical device manufacturer. We did a lot of finding research. We collected a lot of prior research, talked with a lot of really good researchers, a lot of academics as well, people who maybe don't show up at conferences but who have done some really foundational stuff. Talked the other day with a guy named Stefan Savage, who in 2010 was doing some of the first car hacking stuff. And without going into details of his research, because I don't know what's public and what's not, and most of it's been fixed by now, but was able to remotely take over a car from 1,500 miles away. Like, that's stuff that like Charlie and Chris weren't doing. They had to have physical access. But because of the earliness of this research, it was really foundational.
I mean, part of the research part, again, that surprised me, and you mentioned the car part. If you look on our automotive page, I actually tried to do some of the research to find the research that we list on the automotive page, and some of that stuff goes back to the 90s. Yeah. And it's just, they're academic papers that nobody ever paid any attention to, but the research has been done, and it's documented, and it's written up, and it's repeatable. And so it's now listed, and we can refer to it and refer other people to it and say, see, so-and-so did this 20 years ago.
Right. Going and talking to people in the government was not as scary as we thought it was. We found some people who are actually really, really smart.
And wanted to talk to us.
And wanted to talk to us,
which was surprising.
Absolutely. I mean, having conversations with some of the agencies that we did, and they're saying, look, we don't have this figured out. Will you please come and talk to us? Will you come and inform the people who are making the decisions in our organization? Because we don't have a clue on this cybersecurity stuff. It just got dumped into our lap, and now we have to try and deal with it. Talking with congressional staffers who are our generation and younger, so they're very highly technically literate, and they get some of the consequences of security issues. They put together research at an academic and professional level that's way better than anything I could have done, and produced for the security industry.
In some cases, some of those talks that we had with government were very high level and very overview type, but in a lot of cases it was very nitty-gritty, technical, low-level detail stuff, which kind of blew me away. I wasn't expecting that. So it was it was very surprising and very interesting to see that not only was there that interest, but there was that knowledge level there at the government side, which is something that, as a civilian, you don't usually expect from the idiot government, right? but they're not as stupid as they are led to believe, or as we are led to believe.
Right. And we found a lot of willing allies in the industries that we were looking at. A lot of medical device manufacturers. We talked to people on the phone. They would say to us, "Oh man, I'm so glad that you guys are doing this, that you're talking about it." One person, one organization said, "I've been talking about this stuff for years, but every time I see a hack of this type of device, I get funding to do what I need to do. Every time there's a news article that my boss reads or my CEO reads, I get more funding to do what I need to do." And I think that's really cool. That's great. That's something that we didn't expect necessarily to happen, but we found that we've got a lot more friends in a lot more places than we thought we did. We got a lot of press. The journalists that we know from past lives as well as met doing this, they're really receptive to this. I think because it has some aspect of sensationalism to it, but we mostly play down the sensational parts and talk about what needs to be done in the future. Where are we going with this? How do we need to think about these issues? And we're talking about it in a way that maybe everybody doesn't hear every day, so they like the idea of some of the things that we're doing.
We'll talk about this in a minute. And we were able to hopefully play down the hype aspect on the press a bit, but there were other aspects of the press that we didn't really manage that well. We'll cover that in a bit. I don't want to get ahead of us.
Yeah. And we put out some deliverables. Talking at conferences is a deliverable. You go and educate and inform a lot of people. Again, going back to how we're trying to accomplish our goal. We want to educate people. We want to reach out. We want to go and talk to folks who are in the industries. We want to put out things like a 5-star auto cyber safety framework. We want to throw up a website so that anybody can come see what we think about certain issues, direct them to certain videos or text or people who are doing good things in industry. So we put out a lot of stuff, and you've probably seen and heard some of it. And this is some of the conferences that we went to this year, and I think that the reason I like this slide is because it helps to tell a story. And I know you can't see the far right of it, but that's fine. You will on the video.
Oh, this is the one slide where chopping off the right side kind of matters.
Yeah. But Iron Geek, being as good as he is at getting this stuff up, I'm sure he'll do a great job, and you'll be able to see it probably as we close. But again, started at DEF CON and B-Sides last year. The Congress that we did here talked a lot about that. It was immensely helpful for us to focus, to get direction, to bring on more people who are willing allies. We actually had a lot of people travel to DerbyCon just to come to that Congress.
And it was very helpful, and I wanted to personally thank everybody who did that and showed up at the Congress. I think without your input, we wouldn't be here today.
Right. There was a TEDx event that Josh Corman did where he spoke, and he talked about swimming with apex predators, as in sharks, right? Going shark diving. And then he got out of the water, got into his brand new car with Bluetooth, with computers, and realized that he was swimming with the apex predators of the digital ocean, if you'll forgive the hyperbole and buzzwords. And the reception that talk got has been really good from the general public, right? It was a way to reach out, to talk to people who don't know the technology or don't care to know the technology, and get them to pay attention. Drawing that analogy really helped them understand what the risks are and how we need to go about addressing them.
Let me do this bottom part.
Okay.
So the bottom of the slide there on the left, it says refining the message, and on the right, the part that you can't see, says expanding reach. And if you actually look at that as a graph from the left to the right over time, right, when we started out a year ago, we were working on refining our message. That was part of what the Congress here was for. That was part of what B-Side San Francisco we did there. We had their meeting at Blue Hat, where we tried to refine our message, come up with our mission statement, and our core activities that we wanted to follow. And then on the right side, where it says expanding reach, that triangle gets larger and larger over time as we sort of get our press and expand out and try to reach more people in various areas, to reach more people. So we have expanding reach and a refining message. So the message is getting very refined now, and the reach is getting much larger.
Right. At ShmooCon, we ran something similar to what we did here, but a little bit more narrow in scope, where we were just focused on defining the mission, kind of galvanizing that. We also did a similar thing at B-Side San Francisco in preparation for RSA, where RSA gave us a booth for all 3 days, or 4 days, or however many days the conference ran. Forever. And we were able to get the message out to people who wouldn't come to a conference like this, right? I mean, executives of large companies who were at RSA came by and talked to us about Am The Cavalry. So that was really cool. Something else we did at B-Side San Francisco was we ran some workshops. We did a media workshop with Jen. She'll be doing a stable talk tomorrow, and then we'll be doing another media workshop. We call it Engaging the Media API, trying to help you understand how to get involved in changing the media's perception of us and changing the story, focusing the story on what matters. We really liked the idea of doing those workshops, of helping build muscles within this community that we might not have by working on computers, right? That we might not get unless we seek it. So by bringing that capability to the folks here in this room, in this community, we're making everybody a little bit smarter, a little bit better at things that are maybe not traditionally part of what they would do. One of the things we found is, as we built muscles to do Am The Cavalry work, it also helped us in our day jobs. So it helps us talk to management a little bit better. It helps us get the point across. It helps us draw analogies. I can go talk to my mom about this stuff because of some of the things that I've learned. The way I've learned to use my words in a non-technical way, in a non-jargon-filled way. Out at ThoughtCon in B-Side Chicago, we did something similar on each day. We had a really, really cool car hacking workshop. Craig Smith from Open Garages came in and sat down and taught people how to reverse engineer the CAN bus, which is the communications between all the sensors and computers in your car. That was really cool. We like doing those kinds of things. Again, this is part of the outreach and education that we're doing. The part of the slide here that you can't see, we did an event at Black Hat that I already mentioned, which was about 50 researchers and people from industry, brought them together. That was kind of a proof of concept for what we want to do more of, which is make those connections, get people sitting in the room, understand that, you know, the folks that we're trying to reach and influence are also trying to reach and influence us, to work together to solve some of these hard problems that we all care about. What worked well? The problem statement, the mission, the timing. When we talk about the problem statement and the mission with people, it really resonates. I'm kind of surprised at how well that went over. The timing, for some reason, we just got lucky, right? It's the right time for this kind of message. A lot of people have tried to do things like this beforehand, but it hasn't gotten picked up because maybe the world wasn't ready for it. So we know that that's a large part of our success. We also found that that bringing people together was really, really successful. Just getting people in the same room together oftentimes is half of the victory. Especially people with different perspectives, different points of view, different abilities that they can use to influence and to change the world. We found that we need all those different characteristics. There was a good talk that Short Zero gave he gave it here first time I saw it anyways, and he's given it a couple of times subsequently. It's about building a guild. There are certain things that you can accomplish solo. There are certain things where you need some teammates. And there are certain things where you need really specialized resources to be able to go out and effectively do what you're trying to do so in the easiest way. So you need people who are going to take a lot of damage. You need people who maybe are in the press and get beat up by, you know, whoever doesn't agree with what we're saying. You need people who are on the back end then healing them, making sure that they don't lose hope, that they don't stop, making sure that they're energized and empowered. You need people who can really get into the details to figure out the technology, to build a way forward so that when somebody comes to ask for advice, you have the right advice to give them. And I think we found that that is something that we really need to do. We need to get better at. We need to do more of that in the next year. We were good at finding other people to make us smarter, right? we don't have all the answers. I don't know if anybody has all the answers. Raise your hand. I didn't think so. Having other people come in and talk to us, tell us, well, here's the way things actually work. It's like, oh, a light goes off. Realizing that those people are always going to be smarter at those things than we are, and using them, taking advantage of what they do, what they specialize in. Again, going back to that guild concept. And we really got a lot of outside interest and feedback. People who aren't in the security echo chamber, people who are in industry, or private citizens, or just somebody on the street. I was having a conversation in London with some guys standing outside a bar, and they were like, "Oh man, that's really cool. What about this? What about that? How does is Anonymous going to hack my car?" But getting that engagement.
Even besides the random anonymous people outside a bar in London, we're getting some really heavy-hitting email from some movers and shakers outside the InfoSec, inside various industries in the medical field and the automotive field, who are coming to us and say, hey, I want to learn more about your organization, what it is you're trying to do. We're very interested in this. Tell us more.
Yes.
And we'll cover those in a bit. But it's surprising to me that they're coming to us at this point. I mean, we're a year in, and we're now starting to get these emails from these organizations and these people that are coming to us and saying, please tell us more about you. So it's very, very satisfying to see that happen. Yeah, this isn't the good slide.
This is where we admit our embarrassing failures.
What worked less well? In other words, things we need to improve on.
Yeah. Building slides, clearly that didn't work very well for us. Our really broad initial scope, we found pretty quickly that was, too broad to do everything.
We were all over the map. If you remember the Congress last year, we were covering everything from, I think you had it on your slide earlier, not just, it was body, mind, and soul, there was legislation activity that we wanted to cover, all these other activities that were it's too much. We couldn't do it. And so remember the slide, 2 slides ago, we were refining the message, and it's getting narrower and narrower and more focused. And we're now into our pillars of medical, automotive, human life, and public safety, and
public infrastructure and home. Yeah.
Thank you.
Clearly, what worked less well was learning our lines. We also have had some pretty bad project management. As Space mentioned early on, we're all volunteers at this. Things get dropped. We don't have somebody who's sitting around making sure that everything is on time and on task. So if you send us an email and you never heard back, send us another email.
I can't fire you either. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. That's why
That's why you're still here.
Here, yeah.
I am still.
But we want to change things. We want to do good. Sometimes we're not as good at planning and executing on that as we would like to be, but we hope to improve that in the next year. We've had really, really poor communication. We were having a talk about this earlier today, about how badly we have communicated, even just within 5 or 10 people who have been running around and doing different things. We say it takes a guild, and we know that we need to be doing these things, but coordinating with each other, communicating, and then being able to get that message out.
I mean, as far as communication goes, we have recognized that, and we are taking steps already to improve that. Yeah. For those of you that are following along on the mailing list that we have on Gmail, we now have a monthly email that goes out detailing the activities that we've been doing in the last month. We're updating we're working on the website. We have issues there right now, but we're hoping to have the newsletter posted there as well, so that people who are trying to figure out, well, what have you guys been doing, can either go to the mailing list or the website, say, oh, you guys did this, this, and this, as opposed to thinking that we're not doing anything when in fact we're kind of working our ass off.
Right, yeah, and when it comes to doing things versus talking about what we've been doing, we've kind of tried to err on the side of doing more things and talking to more people who can have the influence we need. Unfortunately, the communication void was filled over the last year with just some bad information, and people who would come up to us at conferences and say, I really hate the political action committee that you guys are doing. It's like, well, we're not doing one of those. So
where'd that come from?
Yeah, how did you hear that? But we'll get better. Thanks for coming and listening to what we're talking about now. This is already a form of better communication. Hopefully it's better. We had some early trials. that we just decided not to go down that route, right? We had talked at one point about maybe setting up a lobbying organization. Really, really quickly scratched that one. Just didn't make sense. We already mentioned the two ideas that we dropped of criminalization of security research and civil liberties. Turns out people are already doing really good things in those areas. We would kind of just be getting in their way. They know way more about changing the laws than we do. We don't even know the problem space of the legal system the way that they do.
And now that we have a defined mission statement, they fall outside of our mission.
Right.
So,
and the name, we already mentioned the name. We won't rehash that. Surprises. We've already mentioned a bunch of the surprises that we had this year. In the interest of time, I won't
basically the entire year for me was an entire surprise. Everything was surprising.
Surprising was we had a lot of success really quickly. We had a lot of people jumping on board, pulling us into discussions where we didn't think that we had any friends or any awareness. I was surprised at we had a lot of hits from like Danish and Norwegian web links.
Didn't we do a Danish TV news segment?
I was on a Danish radio show.
Yeah, we're on a Danish radio show.
Like, where does it... I don't understand that, but hey, that's
surprising.
Getting the message out.
Surprise.
Yeah. I went over and I did a talk at 44Con in London just 2 weeks ago, and the feedback and amount of people who were supportive of the idea was huge. I almost wish we had launched in the UK first, because the reception was so universally positive. People were coming up grabbing me, hey, I really want to talk to you about that thing. It sounded great. I think that another thing that was a surprise to me is that there are already a lot of people, as Space already mentioned, doing really good things. Whether they're in the manufacturers themselves or researchers or associated with it or, nonprofit think tank organizations. There's a lot of people who are looking into some of these issues, who are happy to have somebody else doing it and who want to partner up and work together. One of the other things, the last thing I want to say is, we found that we've really been invited to help influence things. That was a surprise. We already have the permission to go and do this. I think that we haven't given ourselves the permission necessarily. Maybe we're a little bit afraid because, I don't know about you, but most of my career in InfoSec has been spent butting my head against the wall and not getting any progress, not being able to influence the chain of command in a company. All of a sudden being asked in to help influence, it takes a mind shift. So what's the next year going to look like? If I can play Nostradamus for a minute, and this will all probably be wrong because all predictions turn out different than you expect, but better communication and transparency. We've already talked about that.
We're already making steps to make that better this year.
We are. And if you have an idea, hey, you guys should do this. We've talked about doing a podcast, we're doing a newsletter, maybe even like, I don't know, some other ideas. Just throw those at us. If there's some way you want to get more information, we want to make it happen.
We do have, again, I'll mention this again, there's a mailing list on Gmail, and you can find it on our website and link to it. And that's open to everybody. If you have a comment or whatever, you want to share it, you have an idea, feel free to post it there. We'll see it and act on it.
Yes, absolutely. We want to have a much broader international reach. So I mentioned that I went over to London to give a talk there. We've had some other events going on in Europe. There's an event later on this year in India that I think somebody might go and do a talk on some of these areas. We want to get the word out. This is not a U.S. problem. This is a global problem. People all over the world are feeling the pinch. And honestly, a lot of parts that go into the medical devices, the cars, are made in different places. Cars certainly, you think of Germany, Brazil has a lot of those things. Medical devices, certainly Asia with all the little chips and things that go in there.
There's nothing made in the U.S. anymore.
No,
or it seems that way. I mean, your software is written in India, your hardware is manufactured in China. So it's definitely a global issue, and so we need a bigger international footprint.
Yes. We want to be able to give more self-service content to people who want it. And to be able to facilitate support to the people who are doing things. We've talked about the idea of building a research library, which would be, maybe it's on a wiki or maybe it's somewhere else. But the idea is to collect research that's happened before so that when somebody wants to go out and research something, they don't have to learn how to reverse engineer a certain protocol. It's already been done. They can just go and pick that up. They can spend more time doing the things that really matter. We talked a little bit about the summit that we did out in Las Vegas with the researchers and then the people in industry. We want to do more of those. So we have a goal to do one summit per industry vertical that we've targeted per year, as well as one for the security community ourselves. So get a bunch of researchers together with people in the affected industry and have them just sit down for a couple of days. And over those couple of days, talk out the issues, come to some conclusion, and hopefully produce some kind of a draft document out of a couple of days of sessions that can then be used internally, externally, whatever. And then the one for the security industry or security community would be when people come to ask us advice, we want to be able to give them good advice. Is there anybody here who wants to install antivirus in their car? Not me, right? So that's the answer that you would give if you were talking to somebody about their PC, right? Hey, my computer's running slow. I think I have a virus. What do I do? Put antivirus on there. Oh, good idea. I'll go do that, right? Maybe a lot of people in this room might not give that advice, but that's the advice that you get, right? So we need to be able to give better advice. We need to think about these things in a different way. When you transpose security and the typical security mindset onto some of these devices, it can lead to worse consequences than no security. If you're in a hospital and a doctor needs to get to one of those defibrillators to restart your heart, you don't want them to have a long, complex password before they can use the defibrillator, right? Because what's going to happen? They're going to forget it. Then they're going to have to call the support desk. Hey, I forgot my password. Can you reset it on this defibrillator? Like, that's stupid. Why would anyone do that? You want that thing to work when you need it, right? So how do we come up with those ideas? And then the big one in a lot of people's mind is having a formal organization and entity. So far, we've gotten by with just a mailing list and a website, and that's worked pretty well. But we do recognize that if we want to engage in certain conversations, if we want to be able to do certain tasks and activities, we do need some kind of a legal organization, legal entity. We're leaning towards a 501c3 nonprofit educational foundation, and we're either going to file our own or we're in conversations with a couple of organizations right now where they might adopt our mission and then give us some of the infrastructure that we need to be able to go out and be more effective. Yeah. So I don't want to talk through this slide because we've got like 7 minutes before we've got to get out of here.
Goes off the screen. Anyway.
Yeah, it goes off the screen. We got a lot of things coming up. Three that I do want to talk about really quickly. The Society of Automotive Engineers. Anybody know who that is? He does. I told you. So Society of Automotive Engineers is an organization that's been around. It's essentially a professional society for people who build automotive things. Cars, planes, trains, trucks.
When you go to your dealer and they have those certificates on the wall that say SEE certified,
yep.
That's who's doing the certification.
Right. We had some good conversations with them. The other day, we briefed one of their working groups on the 5-star safety framework, and they invited us to join the group, to participate, to have a seat at their table. So I think that's huge, and that's definitely something that we're going to take them up on, to be able to get into that level of an organization which has so much influence in the auto industry that they set a lot of the policies and a lot of the standards for how to do cars safely, right? We've got an FDA workshop coming up that it's on cybersecurity of medical devices, and FDA is one of the organizations who, they have kind of had cyber land in their laps. They don't really know what to do with it, so they're looking around for help for allies. I believe that's an open meeting, and it's at the end of this month, the 21st and 22nd, something like that. If you're in the DC area and you really want to contribute, you can go and sign up for it if they've got any spots available. And then the ISC Squared Congress, we're giving the keynote there, and the idea is to mobilize their 100-and-something thousand strong membership to care about things that are a little bit more consequential, right? To shift from assets that are replaceable to assets that are irreplaceable. So the 5-star automotive cyber safety framework.
How many people have already heard about this in one way or another? Just heard about it.
Good.
About half.
Good.
Good.
In the interest of time, I'm not going to go through this, but you can read basically all of this on our website. What's the link? It's we've got a bit.ly link to the petition, but yeah,
So basically, we should probably say what it is for those people that don't know what it is.
Yeah. So the 5-star auto safety framework, we published an open letter to the automotive industry, essentially calling for them to work with us as we work with them. Where our spheres of expertise overlap, we should probably collaborate, right? We also published this, which is a 5-star safety framework. And it's essentially capabilities for how you go about making sure that the automobile is safe, right?
It's not anything crazy either.
Right.
This basic common sense stuff. Well,
right.
You would think it was common sense.
It's not prescriptive. It's not a checklist. It's capabilities that make things safer. I don't care how you implement these things. In fact, I know a lot of manufacturers have already done 2 or 3 of these things. They just aren't talking about it. So opening up a little bit more and having that dialogue. It was not created in a vacuum. It was about 9 months of work to put together the ideas and the concepts that went into this document. We talked, of course, with security researchers.
In conjunction with some of the automakers.
Right. Yeah. We talked with a lot of security researchers, many of whom do work in the auto industry. We talked with automotive engineers, like legit, SAE members who, like, they're kind of cool with security, but they're first and foremost like, I need a wrench in my hand or I just feel naked. Policymakers who really liked the idea and gave us some good feedback. In fact, we even got a quote from Senator Franken, was it? Who said that it was really important to be considering these things. We talked with insurance analysts who are looking at this from the perspective of, hey, we already insure cars. There are computers in cars. Does that mean we're the cyber insurance business now? And the reinsurers, the people who insure the insurers, like they're in the same boat. They don't really know what to do. They need some guidance. Talk to accident investigators, the people who go out and look at crash scenes, figure out why things happened. They need certain tools to be able to do their jobs better. If they can't see the trail of evidence because it was lost to the digital ether, then how are they going to tell what happened in a car crash?
All these groups had some sort of input into developing this letter
Yes.
that we published.
Right.
And I think one of the criticisms we got was, well, you didn't ask any automakers.
Right.
But we did.
Yeah.
And they were involved quite heavily in developing this.
Yeah, it was funny to hear some of the people in the press who basically said, you didn't ask me. It's like, well, we didn't know we had to ask you. Sorry. Give us a call next time. And that is all the time we've got. And
there's the link to our petition
Yep.
for the 5-star auto cyber framework.
Yep.
And we'd appreciate it if people follow the link and click on it.
Yes.
Did you want to say something?
Hi. Oh, wow, I can't see a thing. I'm Jen Ellis. Hi. I am an evil marketer. I confess it. Hi, I'm sorry. But I'm a good evil marketer in that I'm good at what I do. And as a result, I have trapped a member of the press, Steve Reagan from CSO Online. And he and I are going to offer some training tomorrow for anyone who's interested. There are 2 options. There's a 25-minute stable talk, which is just like some simple tips and tricks for people who don't have much time but are interested. And then there is a full media training that'll be like a couple of hours. It'll be a smaller group. It'll be much more like focused. We'll do practice sessions. We'll film you. The works. It is professional media training. You're getting it for free. Please come if you're interested in knowing how to talk to the press.
If you're into research and publishing that research and expect to get press from that research, take advantage of this.
Thank you. It's very, I hate seeing people who are really techie geeks and they know their stuff and then they get on TV and they're like, and their message gets warped because they don't know how to speak to the camera. Take advantage of this if you can.
Stable Talk is 12:25. And the training is at 1 in the Cavalry room, which is downstairs. And so when you think about the Cavalry, it's a lot of things, right? At its heart, it's people. It's people like us. It's people like you. We are all have a stake in this. We're parents, kids. This is one of those rare occasions where cybersecurity really meets humanity, and I think it's pretty cool. So thank you very much.